So guys, we're doing another episode of Ebix. Haven't done a video in a while, as in interview somebody else. I know I did a video with myself. So I'm here with one of my other friends. She's going to tell you her name.
Hey guys, my name is Tamanto.
Okay, Tamanto, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a mom. And I mentioned that first because my child is my life. And I'm kind of a loner. Like, I enjoy being at home mostly. I know sometimes it looks like I go out a lot.
No man, you did a rough couple weekends ago.
But the other day, I have moments of when I feel like, okay, I need to do something. And then I go back into my hibernation where I just do my regular go work, go home. But I'm pretty homey. I enjoy being at home, not being all, I know I look dolled up right now, but when I come out of the house, I get dolled up. But other than that, I'm pretty, very, very laid back.
All right, how would you describe yourself? But I mean, don't tell me you're alone, but what else would you say about yourself? Good qualities.
I'm very extra. I'm really extra. When I'm doing something, it must do big. Birthday celebration, everything must be very, very big. And I like interesting things. Like when I say interesting, I mean like stuff. So if I'm buying a ring or if I'm buying something, I seem to have an eye for interesting things. I am a thinker. Lots of persons don't know that, but I think a lot about things, which is why I'm kind of a loner, because I can get lost in my thoughts. I'm an only child as well, which is why I'm good at being alone. Not that I don't enjoy other people's company, no, I do, but I'm very particular about, people.
Did you have imaginary friends? I had imaginary friends being an only child.
Let me tell you, imaginary friends, not like I knew that they were. I used to play with inanimate objects, is what I used to do, and pretend that they were real. But not like, I made up a friend in my head. Other than that, I'm a gentle heart, so I'm very caring. People feel like I can be aggressive, but that's just the outside. On the inside, I'm very sweet and I'm very gentle, and I try to, see good in people and try to bring out the best in people. I'm a softie, contrary to popular belief.
You're a softie?
I'm a softie and I love Disney cartoons and stuff like that.
All right, so we're going to get right into it. I had a couple questions written down that I wanted to ask. The funny thing is, I was asking some persons to give me some suggestion. Remind me never to ask Shane and Kevin to suggest any question at all, because everything revolved around sex.
I could have told you that.
No, but the thing is, because I know Shane always have one problem, I thought you would be a little bit more in depth, but no, that wasn't the case. Anywho, so I got a question. So one of them I got from Maureen. She don't know who I'm interviewing. She just gave me some general questions. And my mom was supposed to give me some, but she failed epically in giving me any questions. So, are you where you want to be in life right now?
That's kind of tricky. I feel like you're just gonna be in different stages in your life. Truthfully, I'm not exactly where I want to be. I feel like I do have some things that I thought I would have accomplished by now, but I understand why I'm not there yet, and I'm working on getting there. But I can't say I'm not grateful, or I have some level of contentment with my life. I have some things done that I did want to get done. I'm in a place in somewhere where I want to be. But then there's some stuff like my career that was so confusing when I was.
What was your original career path? What did you want for yourself?
So that is the problem. I was so confused. I bought a book, a list of careers, and I could not choose one. Where my heart was, like I said, I'm very caring. I was one of those little girls that wanted to save the world. So I wanted a career surrounded, with that, something maybe in environment or taking care of children or humanitarian, something like that. But of course, that doesn't really make much money. I'm not going to lie, I was influenced a little bit at that time to say, no, that's not a smart decision. And so because I wasn't choosing from my heart, I just picked it with my eyes closed. So I ended up doing oral health sciences, which was a mistake. At first, I thought anyway, because I didn't do sciences in high school.
Right.
I did business and accounts and stuff. And I thought business was so boring. I didn't want to continue like that. So I ended up doing that and I hated it. I hated it so much. I would cry towards the end. I would cry when I was going to clinicals. My mother would have to give me like a pep talk to go to clinic and just finish up. And when you're done, you will, you know, try again. Now, I'm actually in a place where I want to go back and do that even further to like dental surgery or something like that. I feel like at the time I wasn't very, what's the word I want to use? I wasn't very confident in my abilities.
Could it be a case where you didn't have all the information as well? Because I know that growing up as a child, personally for me, there's these specific careers that is the career to choose.
Yeah.
Doctor, lawyer, and whatever. Nobody really teaches you how to think outside the box to say, okay, you can be an animator, you can be a graphic artist, you can be a photographer, you can be an entrepreneur. So do you think that maybe it's a possibility that you didn't have all the information? And then also, I know that our parents, they do the best they can, but they also do it from their own consciousness, meaning from their own limitations as well. Because they fear that we're going dead for hungry. So they try to steer us on a path that they're sure about.
Yeah.
So do you think that affected your career choice?
I think it did, because my mother is very practical. And
That's mine.
you know, I wanted to save the trees.
Mommy said, I don't make no
That
money.
don't make no money.
I wanted to be an archaeologist, and I was like, what? Yeah, so.
You see? So, but I feel like when I finished doing that and I started to work and I started to get a taste of adult life and I started to have to figure out things and I had to use my brain and think critically, now I am in a better place where I feel like I can do it. Not just feel like, I know I can do it.
Be a dental surgeon.
I can do it.
Okay.
I was doing hygiene before, but I feel like I wasn't very confident because, like I said, I never did sciences and I felt so inadequate. Like I couldn't do this and I just feel,
Yeah.
I just feel fool. Now I understand the formula. So I think back then I thought I had to be bright. Like I had to be bright in bio, bright in physics and whatever. No, I know life doesn't necessarily work that way. Even if you're not bright, there are ways to do things. You can find out hacks, how your mind works, how best to study, how, you know.
You have YouTube?
Yeah, everything is online.
Alright, what would you say where you are now in life with everything that you have experienced, everything that you know? What would you have said to your younger self? What would you have wanted to say to your younger self?
Don't worry about it, because I worried a lot. And just have some faith, believe in yourself, and just not worry about it. Don't stress, just keep going. Because now I kind of apply that. You know, shit falls apart. That's life. You know? And the unknown scared me a lot. No, not so much. So if I could tell myself to not be so afraid and just dive in and just do it, I feel like I probably would be in a better place at that time.
Okay.
But where I am, and that's career-wise, where I am with myself though, me as a person, as my spirit, as all of that, I feel like I'm where I want to be now because there's growth there. There's personal growth there.
That's good.
And I'm happy for that.
Okay. In your own words, what would you consider as success?
Well, I feel like success is relative. It's based on each person. Every person have a different definition of success. Some persons think it's financial, having a certain amount of numbers in your bank account can be successful financially.
But what do you think it is for you?
For me, financially, of course, because we don't want to be poor.
Definitely.
But alright, fine. Financially, I want to be in a good place financially. Doing something that doesn't drive you crazy, I feel like, is success. I don't necessarily have ambition to be boss free or whatever. I have no problems doing a job and doing it well as long as I can find it fulfilling. Another thing for me is family. Having people around me that I love and who reciprocate it and I'm sure about them. I feel like success, I want to have a little bit of everything. A little bit of love, a little bit of finances, a little bit of fun, a little bit of enjoyment, just content in most things. I'm not aim high. You know, I'm not trying to go to Dubai.
So why wouldn't you aim high?
Because I'm just not like that. I find pleasure in the simplest things. But I can sit down and talk to a bird. God no. I find pleasure in the simplest things. I just don't want to be hungry. I just want my family to be happy. I want our family. I want to be able to help others. I don't want to be in a position where I'm always trying to survive. Because I feel like that's just not the only place to be successful in. When you take away, not focusing on work or money or whatever, you can excel in other places. You can reach some spiritual growth. You can help people. And I'm a gentle person. I love and I feel a lot. So I feel like for me, I'd want to always be in a position where I can, you know, give love and feel and be loved.
All right, what is your stance? And I ask this question. Now, what is your stance on verbal and physical abuse?
It's unacceptable on both parts, not just man to woman, woman to man as well. I feel like one of the things that I think about sometimes is that we as human beings forget that we belong to each other. We are responsible for each other. I hurt you, essentially I'm hurting myself.
But do you think abuse, verbal or physical abuse, is a case where it's just an absence of you know, not treating each other well, or is it more about the person, the abuser, having some fundamental issues, mental issues?
Naturally. People who are abusive, it's not about the person who they're abusing, it's about them. It's something that's going on inside them. Sometimes it's things from you're younger, or sometimes it's how you're cultured. There are so many different things, because something traumatic can happen to you. One, some people, I've heard you said this before, people do their best within their own consciousness, and it meant a lot to me because I understand it. I always say, if I were you and you were me, would we be the same persons? If I was born where you were born and you were born where I was born, would we be the same? Sometimes it's how your cultures and the things that you experience throughout your life will contribute to.
Yeah, but then you also have a choice at the end of the day as well.
That as well. But I'm coming from that perspective right now, because the truth is that studies have shown persons who have been abused when they're younger or witness abuse, they have a habit of becoming abusive. But at the same time, if we want to go on the topic of persons who have mental issues, that...
Not yet. I have a question.
So maybe you mention it.
No, mention it. We're going to get into it because I know it's something that you're passionate about. Alright, in terms of abuse, what would you say to him or her? Because a lot of people don't realize that men do get abused. But of course, we live in a society where man's supposed to tough and man is supposed to say boom, because woman is supposed to kind of lick them and get away with it because man a man. But men do get abused, and it's not okay. I mean, any form of physical assault on either gender is still abuse. However, and we women tend to be very verbally abusive towards men.
And physically, sometimes they take things and fling it, and you feel like it's fine for you to fling it, but make sense, but then fling it back at you, all of a sudden he's abusing me.
Yeah.
So.
Right, but about abuse, for the man or the woman, because the thing about it is, you know, it's easier for persons who are not in it, probably not, who have never experienced it, to say, why shouldn't I just leave, or why if not just leave? But there's more to it than that, because as humans, we get into a relationship with someone, and it's not all of us start getting verbally or physically abused as the relationship starts. It tends to happen after a while. So this is after you have developed a bond with that person. You probably have certain financial ties. You have other ties to that person, a child, children, stuff like that. What would you say to him or her about staying or leaving?
Well, one of the things that I would say is get help. The reason why I said get help, find
Who should
somebody
get
you
help?
trust.
The abuser or the abusee?
Before we get to the abuser, the abusee, because we're talking about, you know, why they should stay or if they should leave or whatever. So to the abusee, when you're in a situation and your emotions are involved, it's easy for me and you to look at a situation and think logically because we're not in it.
We're not emotionally invested, right?
Exactly. So your judgment is gonna be compromised. So I would say, don't be afraid, because lots of times I'm sit down in silence. Find at least one person you can trust, because the person you can trust is should be the logic that you may not be able to have because of how you're looking at it, how you feel about the person, and all of that. Get help. 2, you are going to have to face some truth. You're gonna have to talk to yourself. You're gonna sit down and you're gonna ask yourself some questions and you're gonna have to answer them truthfully. Lots of times women who are in abusive relationships are afraid.
I think they are the greatest formulator of excuses.
They're afraid. But
in addition to being afraid,
they're afraid. And I when I say afraid, I don't necessarily mean afraid to make a liquor down, you know. They might be afraid of what people are going to say. They might be afraid. Maybe they've been this person for a while and they don't know how to be on their own.
Well, besides that, one of the main things I've realized with abusive relationship is this. Besides the fact of being genuinely afraid of leaving or so forth, you have some persons who do not understand what real love is. And they seek any form of kindness from that person as some form of affection and reassurance that maybe this is it. Which is why I was saying that they always have the best excuse for everything. My
thing is with the excuses, you know, they're gonna find excuses because they want to give themselves reason to stay. At the same time, they're gonna find excuses because abusers are normally manipulative. They, in some cases, they know how to keep them.
Yeah.
They know how to play on their emotions.
Yeah.
So it's not just on the person. I know we have a habit of blaming the abusee to say, oh, you do have no sense or you fool you, whatever. But please remember that they're not the only person here. Normally, the abuser is narcissistic.
Yep.
Narcissistic people know.
Explain what is narcissistic.
Boy, there's so many different aspects to a narcissistic person. But narcissists are manipulators, one. They're gaslighters, if you know what gaslighting means.
Tell them what gaslighting is.
Gaslighting,
A lot of people don't know.
Gaslighting actually came from this plot. It came from a plot where a man convinced his wife that she was going crazy. She wasn't. She was actually acting normal. But he was manipulating her. He was abusing her. And he was, in the process of abusing her, he was making her think that it was her. So this is one of the things that they do. Something would have happened, you and them both say something happened, or you and them are in a situation, and they will turn the situation on you to say that you actually, they'll straight up lie and convince you of the lie. So they will tell you to think, they'll try to tell you to think what they want you to think, to always make it seem like it's you when it's really them. Because the narcissistic people, it's not really them. It's never them, it's always you.
And it's always the world.
It's always the world.
But never.
And that, I feel like that is a strain of a mental illness, because mentally ill people cannot see reasoning where they feel like, maybe I'm thinking wrong. Mentally ill people always feel like they're in the right because their mind is telling them that I'm correct and everybody else is wrong, which is why they never know that they actually have a problem.
Alright, so you were talking about in a relationship.
Right, right. This is a narcissist that's normally the abuser. So,
and the thing about it as well with abusers is that they're so perceptive when it comes on to your insecurities, and they know how to work those insecurities.
And that is why, as you so mentioned, the abuse doesn't normally come at the beginning, because they're nice in the beginning. They're getting you comfortable. They're starting to figure you out, what you like, what you don't like, what your insecurities are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. And after you have now become comfortable, you now build the bond, that is when they start to play on your weaknesses. And that is how they control you. Because after a period of time, they know what makes you tick. They know what makes you stay. They know what you value. And they threaten those things. And when I say threaten those things, is that, let's say you value, if you're one of those persons that care about what people think, they might always put a situation where, oh, if you leave, this is what a person's gonna think about you, or you're this or you're that, and you know you're nothing but a whatever. So they'll create this idea of you and of yourself that in a negative way, for you to think that, oh, if I leave, people are gonna think this, and then you become scared, and it's a whole lot of things.
All right.
And then on top of that, you have some women who naturally go for abusive men.
The thing about it is, you know, and one of the cases this is another thing that I've realized with women. When they post on social media, because, you know, that's how we talk now. Most people.
The feel more cool.
Most people, how we talk, right, is when we talk on social media. And women will go from one relationship to another, and they post. And, you know, all man a dog and all man a shit. Not realizing that the common factor is you. And then, and the thing is, you know, we are not very good at self-reflection.
That's true.
I think it's a scary thought for a lot of us. If we sit down and look within ourselves to find out what is fundamentally wrong with us, it's too scary for us to deal with.
That's what I had mentioned before. The abusee would need to have that conversation and
yeah.
face certain things. You really have to do some
But
self-reflection.
that honest conversation, it doesn't come easily to a lot of people.
No.
It doesn't.
Because sometimes some of us are cultured to tell ourselves lies because of standards that society may
That is true.
set, and lots of persons are not honest with themselves.
Tell me about mental issues. I know you're passionate about this, so let's get into it.
Okay. Well, I am passionate about mental issues because I know persons close to me who have had mental issues, and I've seen firsthand the effect that they can have on the person and on people around them. And in truth, I feel like us as human beings, we don't focus on our mental health enough. We focus on our physical health, you know, try to prevent diabetes and heart stroke and whatever, but your brain is an organ, one of the most important organs in your body. This is how you function.
It can malfunction as well.
It can malfunction. And then there's a stigma associated with a person who's mentally ill, and so for that reason we don't talk about it, we don't face it, we don't try to do anything about it, because no one wants to have that conversation. Yeah. And lots of the problems that we have in relationships, in society, I even believe crime, if it is that mental issues, it's associated with it.
And one of the things is that because we're not so educated about it, we can't recognize it in others. Postpartum depression is one of those things.
Very real.
A lot of people don't recognize it. A lot of people don't understand how it comes about. Because especially when a woman going through it, oh, she's overly emotional. It's her hormones, and it's more than that.
And you can't control it.
Exactly. And they trivialize it, but it's really more than that. It's a mental state that you go in.
Mm-hmm.
And I said it to somebody recently, a husband. I said to him that it doesn't have to be immediate.
That is true.
It can come afterwards.
Because it takes a while for your body to recover on a whole from pregnancy and giving birth. It's not, as the baby pop out, you know, you go back to normal.
Not back. But even with C-section, I spoke to my mom. I didn't know this about C-section. My mom told me. My mom said when you do C-section, you're more susceptible to getting postpartum depression, because you go to sleep and you wake up and the baby is no longer in there. Your body knows that something was in there, and it knows that something is missing. It affects your brain. It can drive you into postpartum depression, which I never knew.
And that makes sense, because your brain didn't go through the process of pushing and go through the process of giving birth. It just knows that it's empty now.
Yeah.
So I guess I can understand that, yeah.
Right. So, that's how I was saying, a lot of persons aren't aware of the signs. For me personally, I think I dated somebody who is suffering from bipolar depression. And I know this
is common, you know.
It is
more common than people think.
And people just think that, oh, I'm just have a bad temper. And it's not that, it's more than that. Because I watch him go from a good state, to a bad state. Nothing happened in between, and it happened within a matter of hours.
Yeah.
And bipolar depression goes from one extreme to the next. And I think a lot of people don't, and that's the thing, and we date these men thinking we can fix them, not realizing that these are mental disorders that they
need
have.
Professional help, and persons need to understand going to the doctor, same as going to psychologist or psychiatrist. It's your health. Now, I noticed that you said that lots of persons don't know the signs and you don't know how to recognize it. And to tell you the truth, normally it starts to show at age 16 in boys. And boys tend to show it earlier than women. I'd have to check why. I think it's some hormone thing with women, but women tend to show a little later. But it can happen with young children. I know of a case of a young boy, I think maybe he's 9, and his mother came to get his medication and they were out, and she almost had a panic attack. So she needs his medication for her child because he's almost out, and when it's out, he's going to just act erratic. And it can, I didn't know it could start as early as that, because in my mind, from what I know,
was his diagnosis?
I think what he had was schizophrenia.
Oh.
Normally, schizophrenia very, very rarely comes so early. From what I know, it's normally about 16 or so. So,
what are normally the signs of, what are the symptoms of schizophrenia?
Okay, so for schizophrenia, it is a chemical imbalance in the brain. So, there are chemicals in your brain that controls reasoning, your imagination, things like that. Normally, when a person is schizophrenic, or not just schizophrenic, you have other mental illnesses that is the same chemical imbalance, but different chemicals. So they have a problem separating reality from imagination. So what will happen is it starts off small. They get paranoid very easily, and they will start to think that they feel like you're trying to hurt them. So as it progresses, they will have hallucinations. I know of a case where a man thought that the CIA was after him. He has no business in there, and he thought that his wife was in on it with him, and he thought bugs were in the house. And this is a person who was fine before, totally able to function, but then you have times when the imbalance just goes up and down, so they're not able to separate the logic. Now, can fix it with medication, but here is the problem with that. Remember, we said that persons with a mental illness, they don't know that they have a mental illness. They think that they're being logical, and they think that they're right. So when you're trying to say to them, you need help, they're going to tell you, no, something is wrong with you, something is wrong with the doctor, something is wrong with all of you. Which is why it is important for us to have this conversation with our children. I'm gonna tell you why. My mother and I had this conversation very young, because like I said, it's somebody close to me, some of my family. So you know, those things sometimes are genetic. Sometimes it's not just genetics, it's stimulation. So trauma, post-war depression, things from PTSD. Yeah. Mm-hmm. People will go through something traumatic and it stimulates a mental illness. But before we get there, because I know I may be predisposed to it, because I know somebody who's a person in my family has it. My mother and I had this conversation when we were very young. So mental health has always been something important for us, and we talk about it. And
because it's hereditary, it's in your family. Okay.
Her fear was that she would see it, and I wouldn't be able to understand that she's trying to help me. So before it could even happen, she talked about it. She said, "Listen, if I tell you, I want you to trust me, because you see what happened to this person. You're looking at it and you're seeing that you are seeing reasoning and the person is not. If I tell you that I want to help you, you're going to have to trust me." And because we've talked about it, I know, trust her. If she should have said something, she said, "Boy, you know, this is happening. We may need to get help." Because I would be more open to it.
Because when you're in the state, because you think it's your reality, she's explaining to you that when I tell you that it's not real, you'll trust her enough to know and get help.
Because we've talked about it before. You're saying you don't talk about it now, it's just going to look like the person is another one of those persons that are trying to get you.
Yeah.
Right. So we've talked about it, and because we've also talked about it, I take steps to protect my mental health. You know, where anger is concerned, if I get too angry, because I do have a bit of an anger from where I did, I have to know when I'm getting to that point, and I have to stop.
When we had this conversation, you made a statement that was profound. You spoke about your son, saying that it's more likely to happen, to be passed on to the male, and you're trying to grow William with the same
thing like my mother did. I want to have that conversation with him from him young, sorry, from he's young, so that I can culture him to think that, okay, mental health is just as important as physical health. You need to be physically healthy and you also need to be mentally healthy, so that we don't have this awkwardness if something should happen.
And also to teach him to ignore the stigma of society when it comes on to mental
Right,
health.
because until it is that we face it, it's not going to change. There are lots of mad people walking up and down inside this country in a suit and tie, right? Because you ever look at some cases, some murder cases, and you wonder, what the hell was this person thinking?
There was a big disconnection.
You understand? You and I can sit down and say, this don't make no sense, yet they did it. You ever wonder why you never meet somebody that would agree with doing what some of these persons do? True. We don't have that conversation. And it's so funny how, I remember when this little boy had committed suicide the other day. I think it was a couple of years ago. And we sat in here at work and we talked about it. And this is what happens when you talk about things. So out of maybe the 10 of us, 6 of us admitted to having thoughts of suicide before. Mm-hmm. Yet when a person does it, people are like, why would you do that? People don't understand that depression is a mental illness. It can push you to do certain things.
I tell you a story because I want to also ask you something. I hope I remember. I remember reading this article about this gentleman. There is this bridge. I don't know if it's the Golden State Bridge, which is the bridge that it's the go-to place for suicide. Mm-hmm. It's the hot spot for suicide. So he said, because from he was young, I think he said it was at 16 it started.
Generally, it's usually 16.
He has his voices in his head. And he said he took his medication and everything and all of that jazz. But he said he remembered coming, and he had family members. I think he had step-parents that loved him, always showing him love and affection and so forth. And he said the day that he was walking to the Golden State Bridge to kill himself, his voices, as much as he remembers that his step-parents love him and they keep saying it to him, the voices in his head is telling him that it's a lie. Nobody loves you. Nobody cares if you live or you die. And he said that sound is so loud in your head that it totally disregards reasoning and everything. What he said that I found profound was that he got on top of the bridge, he jumped off. Clearly he survived because he's telling the story. But he said the minute he jumped, he knew it was a mistake. So he said the whole time that he was going there, the voice is saying, nobody likes you, nobody cares if you live or die, you don't contribute nothing to the world, you're insignificant. And the minute he jumped off that bridge, there's only one voice he heard, and it was a voice that's saying, I don't want this. Everything else disappeared after he jumped. And it was the fishermen saw him and they saved him and so forth and whatever.
Okay.
That's how he survived. But that bridge is the hotspot for suicide. So when he said that, I found it so profound that your whole time you're walking and you're moving back and forth, these voices are bombarding you. But the minute you make a definitive decision to take your life, those voices disappear. Based on what he said, and this is my observation, the voices disappear, and the only thing you feel is that I don't want this. And I'm thinking to myself, how many people that haven't survived that had that same voice, wishing that they could take it back. But what you were saying, that exercise that your mom is teaching you about trusting her voice, it's a very good exercise.
It is.
It's a very good exercise. What did I want to ask you? There's a question I had to ask you about mental issues and I completely forget. Anyways, but otherwise, so you're saying that it's more successful in boys and you're working on your son in terms of trusting you and so forth.
It's more susceptible because...
I remember my question. So, sorry. There are 2 incidents that happened in the media recently. And I brought up the topic and persons were so... Women, it's not even men. Women were so ignorant. And I use the word ignorant in the sense of lacking knowledge. To postpartum depression, and I go back there for this because I need to bring up this for example. You remember the young lady that went to the breakfast party for a child in the car?
You know, that was the first thing that came to my mind though.
That's the first thing that came to my mind. also that lady, what if there was more than that lady that had the baby, lost her baby, but stole somebody else's baby, took the baby home. Both cases, postpartum depression came to me. And the thing about it is people look at the activity and don't like to look at the reason.
The reason, yeah.
She went to the breakfast party, yes, she party, so she careless and she this and she that and whatever. What a lot of people don't realize, and what a lot of men don't realize, fathers, is that when a woman has a child, things change.
Everything changes.
Dynamics change. Your mental state, everything, your body, everything changes. We as women, and we don't like to say this openly, we don't always want their own opinion.
Let me explain something to you. I love my child more than my own life. But sometimes I need silence.
But before that, let me finish my sentence before somebody thinks it was okay for her to party.
Fine.
What I'm saying is that you need to understand that as parents, not just as a woman, but as parents, you do need your time. And I'm not, because I heard she was, I don't know how true it is, but I heard she was in a long-standing battle with her.
That's what I heard as well.
Those things can affect your mental state. And your brain, because I went watching brain games said that your brain can go into defensive mode. If your brain feels like it's being stressed, you can either do one or two things. It's either you try to do something else to the opposite of the stress, or you just get high blood pressure and drop them both and dead. So I'm saying I'm not sure what kind of stress she was under. I think it's postpartum, but I'm not sure. Likewise with the lady, even more so with her. You carry a baby for 9 months, but baby dies, it affects you.
And there's nothing there to hold, and then your body is still preparing for this life. Your breast them swell up like rocks, so no baby for nurse. It's an empty, I can imagine it must be a very empty feeling. And especially, let's say it happens, does she have any support system?
Because people don't recognize what it is.
Does she have anyone around her to help her through this, or is she alone?
Yeah. And the thing is, our knowledge is poor, because the main issue is that if my mom was here, I had a baby and I lost my baby, my mommy would have gone into the mode to start explaining to me what depression is. Because she would have automatically assumed that it was going to go there. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of us in Jamaica don't know what the signs are. We don't know what it looks like. And it's easy for us to slam down the gravel and judge a person.
We tend to do that a lot without actually thinking about, in everything is psychology, really. You have to think about what caused the person to do this. People need to practice empathy. I always say that. It's easy to sit back and judge, when you're over here. But put yourself in the person's shoes. Try and understand before you make a judgment. I'm not saying make a judgment, but really try and understand first.
Right. Alright.
So I think it was postpartum depression, in my opinion. We love our children. I love my baby. And then, like I said, support. She, as far as I heard, this is her second child.
Yeah.
If it is that she's going through this and she doesn't have the help, support is extremely important. Because when you feel like everything changes, as you said, and when you feel like you're being pulled in a million different directions, and then, as you said, your brain goes into defense mode, what do you do if you have no one to help? You're going to break down.
That's true.
You're going to break down if you feel like you have no more life. I have one child, and sometimes I feel like I don't know what to do. And there are times, separate and apart from you being a parent, you're a person, you're still you. You still have to take care of you. And how are you going to take care of a whole other human being if you're not okay?
That's true. That's true. Anywho, Tammy, thank you so much. This interview should have happened like
a month ago.
A month ago, but I'm glad it happened now. And I thank you for your feedback, alright?
You're welcome.
Alright, thank you. Bye, guys.